to Folklore Unlocked. I'm Austin, and like always, I'm joined by Ethan.
Yep, welcome again, everyone.
And this week, we're taking a look at probably one of the more famous cryptids in the entire world. Some of you may know her as the Loch Ness Monster, others as Nessie, but we're covering the Loch Ness Monster. And our girl Nessie, or our boy, Nessie, usually typically a girl, comes from Scottish folklore and is a lake monster which inhabits the Loch Ness in the Scottish Highlands, which loch is the word for lake or inlet sea in Scottish.
And there's not a huge description for Nessie or the Loch Ness Monster, but the main thing that's always carried over in every one of the sightings is it's usually large, usually has a long neck that's usually above the water, and it usually has one or more humps, and then it has usually four fins, flippers, limbs, whatever you want to call it. And we have a picture here of one of the most well-known sightings, or I think it might be the first sighting of Nessie. Calm down later. And one of the things that is considered like the what Nessie probably is, or at least what looks most like from all the photos, is a plesiosaur. So the plesiosaur I have a picture there. It looks very much like some of the sightings we'll see of Nessie here later. But the plesiosaur is thought to have went extinct during the Cretaceous and the Paleogene extinction event, which part of you might know is the asteroid that killed all the non-avian dinosaurs, which was the KT extinction event that was 66 million years ago.
Boom shakalaka.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most well-known extinctions. So I mean, I think people would be like, "Oh, asteroid killed dinosaurs." Yeah, that's it. uh,
And there you have it. There you have it, folks. The first boom shakalaka on this podcast.
Now, some of these species of plesiosaur were partly inhabited freshwater environments and then also seawater environments. So, this could possibly be a way that a plesiosaur could be in the loch, which is a freshwater lake. It's a marine reptile. It has a broad, flat body with four long flippers and a short tail. And usually they're between 1.5 meters to the shorter end to 15 meters to the longer end, which in American units, 4.9 feet to 49 feet.
Thank you for putting those freedom units in.
I always make sure after I forgot what one we did, and you're like, "What are those in American units?" And I got the conversion wrong. But yeah, there's two different types of plesiosaurs that we found fossils for. One is the one that we would think of kind of with Nessie, which is long neck and small head. Then there are also some that had short neck and large heads. And plesiosaur fossils have been found on every continent, including Antarctica. So anywhere there was water, there was a plesiosaur, basically.
And this is why I let you have the plesiosaur. You're the dino guy.
Mm-hmm. I'm the dino and animal guy.
Exactly.
Now, there's a few reasons why I don't think this could be a plesiosaur. First off, the water in the loch is too cold for, we presume the plesiosaur is a cold-blooded reptile, so it would be hard for it to survive there. Reptiles get their like heat from an outside source, so being in a cold water environment would not be good for it. Plesiosaurs could also not lift its head like a swan out of the water just because the way their neck was made and the vertebrae and whatnot. So we would not really see it pulling its head out of the water like we do most photos. The loch is also too small to contain enough food to be able to support a breeding colony of these large animals. So if this has been alive since like the KT extinction event, like some of them survived, there would have to be at least two to breed to keep enough to come to our point in time. So, then also, the loch was formed about 10,000 years ago during the end of the Ice Age, and the last known plesiosaur we have fossils for is 66 million years ago. So they would have had to survive from then, and then also somehow got to the loch after the loch was unfrozen, basically, and made.
Yeah, yeah. Even at the smaller end, which is about 5 feet, I'm gonna just assume that even the smaller ones weighed several hundred pounds, which would take a lot of food to, survive.
Oh yeah, and especially like having one in there might be possible. There's probably enough. Having two in there, we're starting to get to the higher end. Three, no.
Yeah, yeah, like I said, even at the smaller end, they're probably 5 feet, but several hundred pounds. Just knowing sea creatures, they even on the smaller side, they tend to be pretty big.
Yep. Now, now we're going to learn a little bit about the Loch Ness, since it's a freshwater loch, and it has very low visibility in the water because of the high peat moss content in the soil. So it's very dark, very murky, stuff like that. So it would be somewhere that a Loch Ness sea monster, something like that, could hide away, I guess. It is 56 square kilometers or 22 square miles, and it is the second largest Scottish loch by surface area. The largest being Loch Lomond, which has the largest surface area. It is 230 meters in depth, which is 755 feet, and it is the largest in volume because of its depth. But the deepest is Loch Morar, and it contains more water than all the lakes in England and Wales combined. So it's just very, very big. And it has one artificial island, Cherry Island, inside it somewhere. And there are 9 villages around it and one castle. Do you know how to pronounce that castle, Austin?
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Urquhart, but
That's
I
good enough for
could
me.
be wrong.
And I mean, it's not much of a castle anymore. I have a picture there in the bottom. It's more of kind of ruins, but you can still see where it was. Now, here's where one of my
Yeah,
conspiracy theory things are going to come into
yeah.
light.
You said this was gonna enter Wendigoon territory here, so
Maybe not.
I'm
Go ahead.
I'm prepared. I'm prepared for the Wendigoon territory.
It's not as conspiracy basis as you might think, okay? But I have a map up here in the corner, okay? So the Loch Ness is technically connected to the sea through whatever lake that is, right next to the Moray Firth or whatever, which is the inlet sea into Scotland. So it's connected to the sea. So even though we don't think there could be a breeding population of Loch Ness monsters or plesiosaurs in the Loch Ness, they could be from the ocean moving into the Loch Ness. So, what if they only come to the Loch Ness to breed? Maybe they only come here to breed and have their children and whatnot, and then they move back into the ocean.
Aha!
Exactly. What if? Now, do I exactly believe that? No. But there's a possibility. That's the thing. When there's a possibility, there's a way. Some sightings for the Loch Ness Monster. So, we have Aldi Mackay. In 1933, he saw a large beast, almost like a whale, inside the loch, and he saw it rolling around in the water. That's
Okay.
yeah, that's pretty weird, seeing something big like
Okay.
that. Okay. We also have George Spicer in 1933 also saw a large creature crossing the road. It had a long, narrow neck and no limbs. I don't know how it'd get on the water with no limbs, but alright. And it was described as a plesiosaur-like dinosaur. And I have a picture there of I guess it has limbs there, but something like a plesiosaur running across the road in front of a biker. Then we have Arthur Grant in 1934. He drew a picture there of what he thought the Loch Ness Monster looked like whenever he saw it. And then,
Yeah,
what?
I'm gonna call BS on the Spicer and Grant sightings
Yeah, the Grant is kind of and I mean even the Spicer was kind of but most of them are like that.
and now we've got the famous Sturgeon's photo, which was taken in 1934, and reportedly was the first photo of the creature's head and neck taken by Robert Kenneth Wilson. And for 60 years, it was considered evidence of Nessie's existence. Well, in January of '91, it was set finally came out. It was a toy submarine built by Christian Sperling, who admitted the photograph was a hoax in January '91. And Duke Weatherall sank the model with his foot, and it is presumably still somewhere in Loch Ness. So, so this is one of the most famous or infamous hoax photographs in the world, just because people still share the picture, claiming it's real. Well, when it's you know been proven fake.
Now you see, looking at that photo there, you can definitely tell the perspective is off on it because like the waves in the water do not they look like ripples instead of actual waves. So you can tell this thing is much smaller than it actually looks. And I think that's the reason
uh,
why most people like said, "Oh, this looks fake."
because it is fake.
Yeah, exactly. Like before they even knew for sure it was a fake, they're like, "It looks fake. It's not." Yeah.
And even, I mean, I know it's fake, you know it's fake, but even looking at it, it just looks way too small to be like a creature the size of what Nessie is supposedly is.
Hey now, if my like kind of theory thing is right, there could be baby Nessies around, okay?
And some, well, like the plesiosaur theory, there's some other possible misidentifications. And the first is a large European eel, which sightings began in 1856 of a quote sea serpent or kelpie, which is another part of Scottish folklore, but we'll get to that. And freshwater lake near Lerbus in the Outer Hebrides were explained as those as an oversized eel. So there's the large European eel. And in 2006, paleontologist and artist Neil Clark suggested that traveling circus might have allowed elephants to bathe in the loch. So it, I guess it could be a trunk of an elephant, which would explain the long neck, the one or more humps, and the small head. And another theory is a Greenland shark, which Jeremy Wade investigated the creature in 2013 as part of his show River Monsters, and concluded that it was a Greenland shark. and and these sharks can reach up to 20 feet in length, and it inhabits the North Atlantic Ocean around Canada, Greenland, Iceland, Norway, and possibly Scotland, which Scotland is in the North Atlantic Ocean, so could be a Greenland shark. Don't know why I want to say shake, but Greenland, that does sound like a good place to get shakes at.
Now you see, I think like the one that I believe the most is probably the elephant thing, because that definitely looks like some of the pictures or whatever that people see out in the water. But I don't know for sure if there have been that many elephants swimming around that all of them would be elephants. So a few of them could be kind of like the European eel, which were their earlier sightings of like sea monster kind of things. And
Yeah, if I had to put money down on this, I'd go with a mixture of the European eel and elephant theory myself.
yeah, I just had to add the Greenland shark on there, especially because Jeremy Wade. I love the River Monster series, so I was like, since he's like a avid fisherman and whatnot, and catches monsters for a living, kind of thing, he might know kind of what he's doing, you know. So I'll add it on there. And I think they did a DNA test in the water there to see kind of what like DNA of like what kind of animals were around in the water, and they could not find any DNA for a Greenland shark in there. So I mean, possibly it's not a Greenland shark or whatnot. But they also didn't find any for European eels either, and they know for sure that there were European eels in the loch at one point. So, kind of putting that up in the air. Plus, since the we already went over that the loch is connected to the ocean, Greenland sharks could have swam upriver into the loch. So,
And now to some more hoaxes like the surgeon's photograph in the 1930s. Big game hunter Marmaduke Weatherall went to Loch Ness to look for the monster and claimed to have found footprints that turned out to be from a hippo. Good job, dude. You're not a very good big game hunter if you don't recognize a hippo's footprint. And in 1972, a team of zoologists from Yorkshire's Flamingo Park Zoo searching for the monster discovered a large body floating in the water. Yeah, it turned out to be a disfigured bull elephant seal that had died the week before and it dumped itself into the Loch Ness. In 2004, so a fairly recent hoax, a 5 TV documentary team using cinematic special effects experts tried to convince people that there was something in the loch, and they constructed an animatronic model of a plesiosaur, calling it Lucy, and 600 sightings were reported where she was placed. And at one point, Lucy sunk to the bottom of the loch.
now I'll say this, okay? In the defense of Marmaduke Weatherall there, I don't think hippopotamuses have ever been like around Scotland, so I would not be thinking it was a hippopotamus there. I mean, say that, but I think someone did like make the imprint, kind of like we would think with the Bigfoot footprints and stuff like that. So they just took a hippopotamus foot, like cast or something like that, and then made the footprint. So I mean, it's not like there's a hippopotamus walking around there.
Dude's obviously not a very good big game hunter if he don't know his footprints.
No, no, I agree. I agree. I'm just saying, like, in his defense. And the Lucy animatronic was kind of funny. I think that was kind of funny. That especially
Yeah,
since
that one would have been hilarious.
even though like it sunk to the bottom of the loch at one point. So at some point something went wrong, and they had to. I'm sure they went and brought it back up. I'm sure it's not still down there, kind of like the toy or whatnot. But so pop culture. So the Loch Ness Monster really has not been in that many movies that I have seen, but there are a couple big ones. So the first big one is Scooby Doo and the Loch Ness Monster. This is probably one of my favorite Scooby Doo movies that has ever been made, and where I would like think of the Loch Ness Monster from. And you said you've watched it before, right, Austin?
Yes, it is an amazing movie.
Would you rank it pretty high in Scooby Doo movies or pretty low?
I'd say it's one of the better ones for the time period, definitely.
Exactly. There's also the Water Horse, Legend of the Deep, which I have not watched that, but there's also another picture there, and that's kind of like a Kelpie Nessie kind of plesiosaur thing. But I think a water horse is more connected to a kelpie than it is the Loch Ness monster. So
Yes, definitely water horses are more Kelpie-like than Nessie-like.
there's also these two are kind of like less. They're more low budget films, not as good. But there is Incident at the Loch, and then there's Loch Ness Terror, which Loch Ness Terror, as you can see from the photo there, is more of a horror movie. So if you want a Loch Ness Monster horror movie, that might be up your alley, but I would not say it's a good movie. But definitely Loch Ness Monster Scooby Doo, that's definitely good, and I might have to see about Water Horse, but then again, I don't know if that's good or not.
Yeah, on to our thoughts. My thoughts are if Nessie does actually exist, I think it's some sort of plesiosaur or unknown sea creature. But really, I think its existence is more than likely hoaxes that people like to debate. So maybe the plesiosaurs, if they did survive in or around Loch Ness, have evolved to be smaller and survive in Loch Ness. I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
Even the scientists don't know. It's mostly cryptozoologists. But anyways, my thoughts on this. I don't think there's any possibility that the Loch Ness monster does exist, as much as I do want it to. The loch just isn't big enough to support multiple of them for a population. I don't think there's enough food for them. I don't think they could survive there because they're presumably reptiles. Basically, everything that was on that one slide of why it's not a plesiosaur. Um, Now it could be like elephants swimming around, like because they kind of do look like it. There could be large European eels in there. Even possibly Greenland shark. Who knows? Then there's also the people that make animatronics and toys that are just sightings for them. But I do love the legends and myths around this. I think the main reason why is because of that Scooby Doo movie. It kind of sparked a love for the Loch and the Loch Ness Monster in me when I was young. Um, but if something like this was to exist, kind of like I was saying in the Loch Ness slide, my conspiracy theory thing, it would have to live in the ocean and possibly move into the Loch Ness at some point for some reason, probably to breed or something like that. But then again, I don't believe it actually exists, sadly.
So say I really do want Nessie to exist. That's why I'm saying that maybe plesiosaurs evolved to be smaller to survive in the loch.
That
But I agree with you. Chances are it's just nothing but a bunch of hoaxes.
Yeah, that's a sad thing. There's more hoaxes than there are any like unexplained pictures and stuff like that. So I mean, it's But the ocean is big, okay? I'll say that. And we have found animals that have thought to be extinct and later came to just be living really deep in the water, like
The relicanth.
The relicanth, yes. So I was thinking of exactly. There are other things also. Like we didn't think the colossal squid exactly existed as giant squids, and we later found some. So there's a possibility.
Which we talked about in our Kraken video.
Exactly, exactly. The ocean's very big, so the possibility we have not explored everything. So I mean, there's not 100% like, oh, they don't exist. It's just most likely they don't exist.
Exactly. Well, think that's all for this episode. Don't go missing on us for next week, because next week we're covering the missing 411 theory. Any last words, Ethan?
Notice, thanks for watching and have a happy new year, guys.
And we'll see you next week with the missing 411 theory. We'll see you then.